The roommate who never slept. I was a freshman when I learned that your first roommate can shape your whole year. Mine was a transfer student named Kevin. He arrived late, around mid-September, carrying only a duffel bag and a shoebox taped shut. He had this flat way of talking, like he was reciting from memory. The RA mentioned he'd switched dorms because of conflicts, then changed the subject. Our room was small, 2 beds, 2 desks, a closet each. First night, Kevin lined up 3 items on the windowsill: a plastic rosary, a tiny black and white photo of a woman, and a cheap metal key. He put the taped shoebox on the top shelf of his closet and shoved a chair beneath it. "You okay with the window staying shut?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Why?" "Drafts," he said. "They let things in." I thought he meant bugs. Kevin never seemed to sleep. Not really. He'd sit at the desk after lights out and face the door, elbows on knees, breathing slow. At 2 a.m., 3 a.m., if I opened my eyes, he'd be there staring past me. I'd whisper, "Dude," and he'd whisper back, "Shh," like we were kids hiding in a closet. The first time it happened, I chalked it up to stress. Around 3:17 a.m., I remember the time because the old alarm clock glowed green. Someone tried our door. Not just a jiggle, but a heavy push like a shoulder leaning into it. The handle pressed, released, pressed again. Kevin didn't move. He whispered, "Don't say anything." The pressure stopped. I heard footsteps retreating down the hall, uneven, like someone dragging a sneaker. Next morning, I joked with the guys across the hall. "Which of you idiots tried to break in last night?" They swore up and down it wasn't them. Everyone claimed they'd been asleep because there was an 8 a.m. calc exam. The RA checked the security camera at the end of the corridor. No one had walked past our door between 2 and 4 a.m. Night 2, the same thing. This time the knob turned harder. I heard the metal latch scratch. Kevin held the key from the windowsill in his palm, thumb rubbing the cut grooves like a worry stone. He whispered, "Don't stand up." Whoever was outside slid something under the door. Paper, maybe. I heard it rasp over the carpet. Then the footsteps again. Light, then heavy, then light, as if the person changed their mind about their own weight. When I finally got out of bed, nothing was under the door. No paper, no dust disturbed. I reached for the handle. Kevin's hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. "Not in the dark," he said. "It can be a lot of things in the dark." On the 3rd night, I recorded the hallway audio on my phone. At exactly 3:17 a.m., the door shook like someone slamming their forehead against it. 3 times. The recording captured it clearly. Thud, 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 and then something else. Whispering, too fast to understand. The cadence reminded me of prayer. When I played it for Kevin, he shook his head and said, "Not prayer." I confronted him about the shoebox. "What's in it?" He said, "Things that don't belong to me." He kept glancing at the closet mirror, which was warped and made our faces look stretched. "Sometimes when you move, it follows." The RA finally agreed to do a middle-of-the-night patrol. He posted up at the stairwell with a flashlight. At 3:15 a.m., he texted me, "All quiet." At 3:17 a.m., our door moved like a shoulder lean again. Kevin stood up and pressed his palm flat against the door, and it pushed back from the other side. My heart hammered so loud I could hear it in my ears. I texted the RA. "Now, our door." No response. Kevin said, "This isn't its hall." I asked what that meant. He just kept his palm on the wood. The pressure stopped. Then we both heard it. Steps not in the hall, but inside the walls. Scratching along the baseboard, moving toward the heating vent under my bed. The vent pinged like metal cooling. The sound stopped beneath me. We turned on the lights. The RA knocked 5 minutes later, sweaty and annoyed. "No one was here," he said. I played the audio. He said the building makes noises. The next day, Kevin moved the shoebox from his closet to mine. "It doesn't care about me anymore," he said. "It picked you." I laughed because that was the only choice besides freaking out. I shoved the box back. "Dude, I don't want your haunted shoes or whatever." He looked hurt. "They're not mine," he said quietly. That night I woke to the sound of tape peeling in my closet. The kind of slow pull you do so you don't rip the cardboard. Kevin was sitting up in bed, eyes wide. We both stared at my closet door. The light from the alarm clock made a thin green line along the floor. Something moved behind the door, like a hand sliding up the inner panel. The handle of the closet turned. I crawled out of bed and grabbed the chair Kevin had used. "What are you doing?" he whispered. Don't open it. I didn't answer. I jammed the chair under the closet handle and leaned all my weight on it. The pressure from the other side stopped, then tried the other way like it was curious about hinges. At 3:17 a.m., the room's air felt thin, like the oxygen level had dropped. I heard my phone vibrate. A text from an unknown number. You have my box. Then you took it. I showed Kevin. He shook his head and said, "Pub, block it." I texted back, "Who is this?" The reply came fast, a picture, blurry, the corner of our room. The edge of my bed, my legs under the blankets. The closet door, taken from inside the closet. I threw the door open, chair and all, expecting a prankster, expecting anyone. The closet was too small for a person. It smelled like old fabric and something sweet, like wet flowers. On the top shelf, the shoebox sat with the tape half peeled. Inside was only a black and white photo. The same woman from the windowsill, but her eyes were scratched out. And a brass key that didn't match anything in our room. There was also a folded paper. I unfolded it. A campus ID photo was taped there. A girl named Amy who had lived in our room 5 years ago. Her dorm assignment was our exact room number. Next to it, someone had written in small, tidy letters, "Please return what you took." No signature. No date. I went to the desk and typed Amy's name into Google. An obituary popped up. She had gone missing sophomore year. Last seen leaving the library at, my stomach flipped, 3:15 a.m. The note's paper crackled in my hand. Kevin whispered, "It can be a lot of things. Or it's just one thing that tries on different shapes." We took the shoebox to the RA together. He rolled his eyes until he saw the obituary. He called campus security. They kept the box overnight. Our room was quiet for the first time in a week. I slept hard. In the morning, the RA called to say the box wasn't in the security office. He thought maybe we'd taken it back. We hadn't. When we returned to our room, the windowsill was empty. The green clock read 3:17 p.m. I opened my closet to grab a hoodie. The shoebox sat on the top shelf, neatly taped shut, my name written on the lid in small, tidy letters. I moved out that afternoon. I still get texts from that unknown number at 3:17 a.m. even now. Check the closet. I block them every time. New numbers keep finding me. I don't use closets anymore. The last study room, our campus library, had these small glass study rooms you could book for 2 hours. They were always in demand during finals. The walls didn't go all the way to the ceiling and sound leaked through, so you could always hear someone's keyboard or a cough or the tap-tap of a pen. It felt safe because of all those little noises, like being in a crowded aquarium. One November night, the only slot I could get was 1 a.m. to 3 a.m., a graveyard shift for studying. I brought coffee, a hoodie, and a stack of notes for my psych exam. Room 2C on the second floor near the emergency exit. The hallway was basically empty. A janitor's cart sat unattended, mop propped at an angle like a person leaning. Inside 2C, the lights were a bit too bright. Humming. I put my phone screen down so I wouldn't be tempted to scroll. A sticky note on the whiteboard said, "Please erase when done. Staff." Someone had sketched a face beneath it, 2 dots and a long drooping mouth. I erased it, watched the dry ink smear into a gray patch. Then I got to work. Around 1:40 a.m., I heard faint whispering from the next room. 2B was empty when I came in, but maybe someone had booked it late. The whispering came and went like a radio fading in a tunnel. I pressed my ear to the glass and caught a phrase. "Do you know me?" It sounded like a recording. Then silence again. At 2:05 a.m., the emergency exit down the hall gave a loud, hollow rattle like someone testing it. There was a sign that said the alarm would sound if the door opened after hours. No alarm went off. The rattling stopped. Then came a soft knock on my glass down near the handle. 3 taps, I jumped. Through the glass, I could see only the empty hallway and the reflection of my own startled face. I told myself it was building noise, the kind of stories seniors tell freshmen to spook them. I put my headphones on and tried to focus. A minute later, another knock, this time at my back. I turned around to the whiteboard. On it, written in smaller, lighter handwriting than the staff note, "Do you know me?" The marker cap lay on the ledge. I hadn't heard the marker squeak. I hadn't heard anything. I erased it, marker squeaking in a very normal way, trying to reduce this to a prank. Room 2B was still dark. I checked the booking screen out in the hall. It showed 2B as available, last used the day before. The screen on my room showed my name, my time slot, glowing green. When I sat back down, my phone was face up. I hadn't touched it. A new notification lit the screen. AirDrop. Stranger would like to share a photo. It was the glass door from the outside, my head bent over notes. I declined the AirDrop and turned off Bluetooth. Then I turned off Wi-Fi. Then I powered the phone down. I put it under my leg like a kid hiding candy from a sibling. The whispering from 2B started again, louder. I stood, walked to the shared wall and listened. This time I could make out words, a woman's voice. "Do you know me?" "Please say my name," it repeated. A recording loop, I told myself. Some bored film student playing a joke. I opened my door and knocked on 2B's glass. "Hello?" I called softly because it was a library. No answer. I cupped my hands around my face and peered in. The room was dark. I could barely make out the whiteboard inside. On it, the same sentence in block letters, "Do you know me?" Underneath, smaller, "I know you, I didn't walk in." I went back to my room and texted the night librarian. "Someone's messing with rooms 2B2C. She responded right away. On my way. I felt a wash of relief. People in charge could exercise silly fears like bad Wi-Fi. The emergency exit rattled again, louder. The metal bar knocked against the frame in a steady rhythm. 5 taps, pause, 5 taps. The janitor's cart was gone. The hall felt colder, like the air conditioning had kicked on only where I stood. A draft curled around my ankles and slipped under my door. The librarian arrived, a woman in her 50s with sensible shoes and a long key ring. She looked annoyed in the way of people who've seen too many false alarms. I told her what I'd seen and heard. She nodded, walked to 2B and swiped her card. The door opened with a soft click. "Nobody booked this," she said. The room lights came on. Empty. On the whiteboard, there was nothing written. Clean. Marker ledge untouched. "Maybe it was a reflection," she said. "Maybe you saw your own note." "I didn't write anything," I said. She tilted her head. "Students like to scare themselves," she said, but not unkindly. She left, promising to check the emergency exit on her rounds. I stood there, suddenly feeling 6 years old in a dark house. I ducked into 2B for half a second, just to prove to myself there was nothing there. It smelled like glass cleaner and dust. The lights hummed. I touched the whiteboard, smooth. I turned to leave. From the corner of my eye, I saw movement on the glass, my reflection lagging half a second behind me. I froze. My reflected head tilted when mine did not. Then it snapped back in sync. I ran back to 2C and shut the door chest tight. On my desk sat my phone, powered off. Still, the black screen lit faintly from the emergency exit's red glow. I had the urge to check it, like checking a closet you already know is empty. When I picked it up, the powered-off screen showed a faint, ghostly image, as if burned in. The glass door of 2C from the hallway. The words scrawled across in reverse. "I know you." I cleaned up fast, stuffing notes into my bag. My 2-hour slot had 10 minutes left. I told myself I'd study in my room. As I reached for the door handle, someone knocked from the inside right under my hand. 3 precise taps. My skin went ice cold. I forced the door open. The hall was empty. The emergency exit stood a crack open. No alarm. Cold air poured in from the stairwell. The librarian's key ring jingled somewhere on the first floor. "Hello," I called. No response. I edged toward the exit to pull it shut. The metal bar felt slick, as if someone had just held it with wet hands. The door resisted, then closed with a heavy click. I took a step back and realized the glass of 2B faced me. Something was written again on its whiteboard in frantic scribbled letters covering the whole surface over and over. "Do you know me? Do you know me? Do you know me?" It faded even as I looked, like it was evaporating. I left. That seemed smart. I told the librarian I wasn't feeling well. She nodded absently, checking a list on her clipboard, and said, "Be careful of the stairwell. We've had issues with that exit, not alarming." She didn't look up. A week later, cramming before the retake, I booked 2C again because the other rooms were gone. This time I brought a friend. We laughed about it because that's what you do. We walked past the booking screens. 2B and 2C both showed my name. Inside 2C, the table had a new sticky note on the whiteboard. "Please erase when done." Staff, the same heavy marker, the same tidy handwriting. Beneath it, in a faint watery script like someone pressing from the other side of the glass, "Say my name this time." I never went back after that exam. I never learned her name. Sometimes when I study late anywhere, my phone tries to airdrop me photos. Always a glass door, always me. Sometimes there's a shape behind my shoulder reflected in the pane, a shape I never quite catch before the image times out. I'm afraid I'll see myself lag again. The quiet floor every campus has one dorm with a reputation. Ours was Bracken Hall, a heap of old brick that smelled like wet stairs. The top floor was half closed for renovations, which meant painted over windows and a chain across the end of the hall. They put the quiet study rooms up there, though, so you had to pass the chain to get to them. The RA said it was fine, just don't go past the mailed-on "Do Not Enter" sign by the last door. My roommate and I liked the quiet floor during midterms because no one risked the climb. The stairwell to the top had a bare bulb that flickered randomly, like a heartbeat you couldn't sync with. The plaster along the wall was cracked in hairline lines that looked like writing if you stared long enough. One night in October, I went alone because my roommate had a night shift. The quiet floor was more silent than usual. You could hear the building settle, the soft thump of pipes, your own shoes. I picked a study room near the chain. One chair, one table, small window painted a feathery white. Dust floated in the light like gnats. The door to the closed wing, the one past the chain, made a low sound every few minutes, like wood breathing. I told myself it was drafts. An hour in, I heard humming, a tune with no tune, the kind of sound kids make when they color. It came from the other side of the chain, then stopped as if it noticed itself. I stood and peered down the hall. The "Do Not Enter" sign hung crooked. The door behind it had a rectangle of darker paint where something used to be. Maybe a plaque. "Hello?" I asked softly, because even up there you observe library voice. The humming didn't answer, but I heard a small patter like bare feet on tile going away. I texted my roommate. "You ever hear humming up here?" He sent back a ghost emoji, then, "Kidding, you okay?" I said yeah, because at that point I went back to my notes. The building made a new noise, not pipes or settling. It sounded like a streak of fingernails skimming along the corridor wall, a controlled draw from the chain toward me. As the sound reached my door, it stopped. I held my breath. Then a single tap on my door. Low, like someone short had knocked with their forehead. Another tap, higher. Then the handle turned slightly, like a kid testing if it's locked. I opened it fast, expecting to catch someone. The hall was empty. The air felt warmer, like a stove had been on. Down by the chain, the "Do Not Enter" sign now hung by one metal twist. The bottom of it was wet, as if someone had dragged it through a sink. I decided to leave. That was also smart. As I turned to pack my bag, I saw chalk on my table. A little nub of white chalk, fresh dust around it. I hadn't brought chalk. 3 small outlines of hands were pressed into the dust. Child-sized. Not on the table surface, under the chalk dust, as if the dust had been sprinkled on top of hands that already existed there. I grabbed my stuff, blood loud in my ears. The moment I stepped into the hall, the humming started again, farther down behind the "Do Not Enter" door. It rose and fell, careful and patient, like someone trying to remember a lullaby. The door clicked only once, like a tongue against teeth. I told myself it was locked. I wanted it to be locked. The stairwell felt safer. The bare bulb flickered, then went out. I froze. The dark was total for half a second, then the bulb buzzed back to life, dimmer. In that dim light, I saw wet footprints leading up the last 6 steps, small and narrow, turning at the landing toward the quiet floor. They stopped at my shoes. I went down 2 flights without stopping. On the 5th floor landing, I almost ran into the night custodian, an older man with a sagging utility belt. He asked if I was okay. I said something about the light. He nodded like that was the correct excuse. "Bracken eats bulbs," he said. Then casually, "You hear her?" "Who?" I asked. "The little one," he said. "The quiet floor's got history. They sealed that wing after the fire." He shrugged. "You know how old buildings are. They hold on." "What happened?" I asked because horror is nosy. He wiped his hands on a towel. "Story is, a fire started in the laundry room up there. Smoke killed more than flame. Not everyone made it down. A little girl visiting her sister for the weekend. They say she hid in a closet because that's what they teach you in schools for drills. Closet filled with smoke first." He shook his head. "They slapped a new coat of paint and called it a day. I wanted him to tell me I was imagining things. Instead, he said, 'If she hums, don't hum back.' I went back to my room and tried to sleep with the light on. Sometime after 3, I woke to soft humming through the duct above my bed. The tune matched the one from the quiet floor. I turned my music on low to drown it out. It changed, trying to match my song, always a beat behind. The next night, my roommate insisted on going with me. "We'll debunk it," he said, which is a brave word people use before they scream. We took flashlights and chalk because he thought it was funny to bring props. The chalk dust from last night was gone. The chain still hung slack. We wrote our names on the floor with the chalk like kids. I said, "This is dumb." He agreed. It felt better together. At 1:12 a.m., according to my lock screen, the humming began again from the closed door. We stood still. My roommate, who laughs at everything, didn't laugh. The humming moved closer. The sound wasn't coming through the door, it was coming around it, as if the door didn't fully meet the frame. We backed away. "Do we go?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, but I didn't move. My body felt glued to the tile. The door's handle rotated slowly with a sound like a spoon turning in a thick jar. Our flashlights shook. Something slid under the door. A gray smear at first, then a skinny line of ash like a snake. It curled into letters across the tile, shaky and careful. "I am quiet." Another line formed beneath it. "Are you?" My roommate whispered, "Don't hum." Which made me want to hum because that is what fear does, it teases. He grabbed my sleeve. "Don't." We stood while the second line trembled, then the ash dispersed like a breath had blown it apart. We left, walking backward until the stairwell swallowed us. The bulb held this time. We made it to our room having said nothing of substance. We planned not to talk about it at all, actually. But the building wasn't done. A week later, flyers went up for a memorial on the quiet floor. A facilities team had discovered fire damage behind a sealed panel. They were going to restore and commemorate. The flyer had an old black and white photo of Bracken's top floor. In the photo, a little girl in a dress stood half-turned toward the camera in front of that same door. The caption said the photo was from Parents' Weekend 1978. The girl's face was slightly blurred as if she moved while the shutter clicked. I didn't go to the memorial. I didn't want to hear speeches or the word closure. That night, my roommate and I tried to study in the lounge. We heard humming again, softer this time from the vents. Our ceiling vent rattled once. A puff of gray dust drifted down and settled on the table between us. In the dust, perfectly formed, was the outline of a small hand. My roommate, who had insisted on debunking, pulled his sleeve over his hand and wiped the print away. "Building dust," he said, voice shaking. "Old buildings." We both avoided the quiet floor after that, but avoidance isn't a fix. Some nights the humming comes up through the pipes when the heat kicks on. If we turn on music, it tries to follow. Always slightly off, always a beat behind. And sometimes when I wake around 1:12 a.m., I hear a small knock on our closet door low, like a forehead. If I don't move, it doesn't knock again. Last week, new flyers went up. Bracken Hall quiet floor, reopening soon. In the corner, someone had scribbled in ash gray pencil, "Shh, I think they'll open it before winter break. I think people will book those rooms again. I think late at night someone will start humming without noticing, because we copy what we hear. And in copying, we invite things closer. I've learned to keep very still. I've learned not to hum back."